Hello everyone and welcome back. Before diving into the video itself, I want to share a few life lessons I learned while doing this video. So first of all, number one, don't envision a scene in your head too much before you go out and shoot. I decided to go to Bellagio on Lake Como with specific intentions and ended up to be in a ghost town. All the shops were closed, the town filled of tourists, and haven't found the local vibe I was looking for. And number two, strolling around alone with the C70 and the R6 made me stress so much that probably in the next video I'll try to reduce my equipment. I prefer to enjoy the process rather than having the most fancy gear with me. And yet, number three, have fun anyways and enjoy the moment, because that's what photography is truly all about, right? Now let me dive in with the topic of this video. This time I went out to Lake Como with a few vintage lenses that I picked up with my Canon A1. They are old, worn, not the sharpest of course, but that's part of the beauty. Each one has its quirks and limitations, and in a way using them is like working with a film camera. To truly enjoy the process, I challenged myself to stick with manual focus, fixed ISO and no rush. I played with three lenses, an FD 28mm f2.8, an FD 50mm 1.8 and 135mm f3.5. For the purpose of this video, I mounted this lens for a bunch of hours each without focusing too much on what I could have done with another focal length. Okay, so let's jump into the video, starting with the 28mm. The 28mm became so far my favorite focal length, the one that made me change my approach to photography lately. The first stop while visiting Bellagio was this side part of the town, way less touristic and so far the most authentic. Spending some moments here felt like being stuck in a different time. The autumn colors were beautiful on the ivy and the morning light was coming through the alleys so perfectly. While a wide lens like this might be the best choice to shoot environmental images, I find it more suitable to be used as a 35mm, playing between environmental and details. From a courtyard to a small detail, I find it quite versatile for most of the time and probably will be my go-to lens for a whole trip. I moved then to the shore where the morning light was creating a nice atmosphere over the lake. Here I focus on one of the boats on the shore. Its color somehow contrasted with the whole scene, and the boat's body was hit by the sun's reflections on the water. I therefore decided to go deeper into town, and here my expectations were largely disappointed. Where I hoped to find a little more local life, given the low tourist season and being in a midweek day, I actually found a mostly closed city, filled only with tourists and international signs. I was looking for authenticity, perhaps some artisans at work in one of the pottery stores or art galleries, but instead, none of that. Having overcome the initial disappointment, I decided to take a break, have lunch, and recharge my mental batteries, and start shooting with the 50mm. This focal length has always been one of my favorites. I started my photography journey with a nifty 50 1.8 and it just feels natural on the way I see the world. Every time I shoot with this lens, it's like stepping back in time. While it's a super versatile lens, I find it perfect for focusing on those little details that catch my eye. Even though mine has a few flaws, like a fingerprints inside the glass, it still delivers amazing sharpness when stopped down to a mid-range aperture. In fact, with this lens, I captured my favorite photo of the day, a portrait of a swan that came up to me looking for food. For the kind of photography I do, this lens feels like a wild card. It works beautifully for capturing details and landscape-like scenes. Walking through the streets of Bellagio, I naturally found myself drawn to the buildings thanks to the lens lack of distortion. But there is one feature of this lens that I absolutely love. Maybe it's because of the internal fingerprint on the glass, but when shooting wide open, the highlights bloom in a way that's incredibly soft, almost like using a bloom filter. It gives the photos a unique film-like quality that's hard to replicate, and that's what makes this lens so special to me. So my main plan with the 50mm was to capture portraits of local artisans. But since I didn't find anyone, I decided to switch lens and focus on shooting with the 135mm instead. To make the most of this lens, I went back to where I started my day. It was fascinating to see how a different lens and a different light completely changed the way I approached the same spot. Switching lenses shifted my mindset about what to focus on. While this focal length can be versatile, for the final part of the day I chose to concentrate just on details. From the layers of distant mountains to reflections on the water, isolating subject and simplifying the frame felt like the best way to use a telephoto lens like this. By the end of the day, as the sun started to set behind the hills, I decided to take one last stroll with the 28 and the 50mm. So, wrapping up this journey back into vintage lenses and the slower process they demand, I can't help but feel that these kind of images that aren't rushed or technically perfect, carry a timeless quality. It's less about sharpness or technical details and more about capturing something deeper, something that can stand for years without feeling old. Slowing down forces me into a different mindset, one where I'm not only seeing but also feeling the moment as I photograph it. I know that might be a sort of basic and cheesy rule, but I have a hard time being present in the moment while I photograph, especially when I'm traveling. So vintage lenses like this help me to think more about my shots and get less distracted. With each shot, I have to be patient and most of the time accept the imperfections coming from this old gear. It's not always easy, okay? There's a strong urge to keep up, to want things fast, but putting myself in this lower rhythm reminds me to enjoy the moment and to appreciate the process of photography again. Alright, that's it for this one. Thanks so much for watching and for coming along with me on this slower, more intentional journey. If you give vintage lenses a shot, let me know how it goes. I love to hear about it. And hey, if you enjoyed this or just like hanging out here, feel free to stick around for more. Thanks again, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!